everybody, Michelle McClunan here. I'm an astrologer and a life coach, and I'm coming to you today with an update on the next eclipse, which is on the 10th of June. It's actually a new moon eclipse, which means it's a solar eclipse, and it's the second eclipse in a row. So 2 weeks ago, we had our first one, which was a lunar eclipse that was in the sign of Sagittarius, and now we have a solar eclipse in the sign of Gemini. So same axis, but full moon going down to new moon. So full moons are always times when things come to a head, comes out into the light of day, comes up to the surface, stuff comes up to the surface. New moon is more of a time of planting seeds. It's the end of a cycle and the beginning of a new cycle. And cycles that start on eclipses have a longer cycle than a normal new moon. So they have a cycle of about 6 months. The energy is felt for about 6 months. This one is in the sign of Gemini, along with the nodes of the moon. The nodes of the moon are always close when there's an eclipse. And the nodes of the moon at the moment are in Gemini. The north node is in Gemini. So it's a north node eclipse, which means that it's got relevance to our destiny. The north node in astrology refers to our destiny, our path, our way forward. So this is really showing us the way forward if we kind of unpack it a little bit. So if we look at the new moon, first of all, it's aligned with a lot of mutable energy. Mutable energy in astrology is changeable. It changes before you see it. It's a bit like a mirage. Mutable, changes, it's adaptable, it's versatile, it's diverse, and it can be a little bit unstable. Now, mutable air is probably the most unstable of all because it's kind of smoke and mirrors. You don't know what's going on. There's not a lot of stability. And this new moon, the chart for the new moon has very little earth in it, has a lot of air and quite a lot of water, which brings emotions up, and it brings a lot of mind, thoughts, chatter, stories to the surface. So basically, this is all about this axis with Gemini is about information. It's about thoughts. It's about the stories that we tell ourselves. It's about our self-talk. It's about mental noise. It's about the information that we're receiving from the outside and what it means to us, how we unpack it, how we integrate it, and more than that, the choices that we're making. So I see this as very clear, this eclipse. Gemini is a dual sign. It's the twins. Many people say it's two-faced. It's not about that really, but it's two sides. There's two parts of this of Gemini, and so you can always look at polarity. Now the mind will always polarize because that's what the mind does, and Gemini is ruled by Mercury, which is the planet that rules the mind. Okay, so Gemini ruled by Mercury. Mercury rules the mind, rules communication, rules information that we receive and how we give it out, how we speak, what we think, how we communicate our information, how we integrate our information. So it's all about that. That's what this axis is telling us. So we've got the moon, we've got the sun, and we've got Mercury all together in a tight little what we call conjunction in astrology, and then close by is the north node. There's 4 elements, 4 points in Gemini. So what else is about Gemini? So we've got all these thoughts coming at us. In addition to that, all of those planets are in a square to the planet called Neptune. Now Neptune kind of can add some fogginess to the occasion. So confused information, foggy thoughts, not being able to really hang on to a concept for more than a few seconds. So if you're feeling that this could be part of the reason why you're feeling that. In addition to that, the ruler of Gemini has gone retrograde, Mercury retrograde. That can result in data losses, issues with websites, issues with cell phones, issues with any communication devices, travel arrangements, not that we're traveling very much at the moment, but those are the kind of things that can be affected by Mercury retrograde. So it's always a good time to back up your stuff, back up your data, because lots of things go wrong with communication devices during Mercury retrograde. The same thing happens with our minds. So our minds aren't necessarily moving forward. They're kind of in a holding pattern thinking, well, I'm not quite sure what's true, what's not, what's real, what's not, what's smoke and what's mirrors. And there seems to be a lot of duality around at the moment. In fact, probably more than we've ever known. There's this and there's that. And very few people are meeting in the middle. You have your opinion, and nobody seems to know which one's right, which one's wrong, particularly when you're trying to make the decisions that you need to make from the head, because the head will always show you both. It'll show you the dark, the light, the black, the white, the good, the bad, and then there's a lot of confusion thrown into the mix. But the other thing about Neptune, when Neptune's in the picture, apart from it sort of muddying the waters a little bit, is that if we get out of our head and into our heart, there's a very strong ability for us to intuit the right way. If we're in our heads, not so much. It's just confusion. The more you watch, the more you listen to, the more you hear, the more you speak, it's just overwhelming. Whereas if you go quiet, you go inside, and you listen to what your heart says, that's going to be your best bet in terms of choices that you need to make. And this is probably one of the most crucial times in our lifetimes that we're going to see in terms of choices. What are we going to choose? There are many different choices to be made right now, but a few really, really key ones. And if we are not sure of the choices, we need to go inside and feel what's right for us. A lot of people are getting a lot of information from different quarters, from different people, telling them what they should do. And they're not sure what they should do because they're very confused. So the way I see this, and this eclipse really is bringing this to the light, is go inside, tune into your intuition. That's what Neptune's telling us to do. If you don't, there's just going to be more confusion. If you try to get your, trying to find your decisions from other people, you're going to be confused. You might be given a lot of conflicting information, which I think is happening at the moment, particularly for people that are looking further afield. I think we also need to make very clear choices of what we're listening to and what we're watching at the moment, and possibly spread our lens a little bit. So really sort of get a broader perspective of what's happening, as opposed to just choosing one channel of thought and one channel of information. So really spread your net in terms of if you are wanting more information. But when it comes to making decisions, those decisions need to come from inside, not from somebody else telling us what to do. And remembering also that decisions made in fear are generally not good decisions. So when we make decisions in fear and we make them in a hurry, we very often regret them afterwards. So if you're making a decision for your long-term benefit, for your long-term life, take time to sit quietly and to just feel into what feels right for you. Also just connect in with that observer part of you. So when you're on the outside of the wheel and you're spinning around, you can't be the observer. There's just too much going on. We need to get out of the matrix, if you like, of all the mayhem, of all the overwhelm. We need to rise above it and tune in to the observation, the observer part of us, which can see clearly what to do, because it's actually it's kind of an inner knowing. So to tune in with your intuition, there's no polarity. You've all been there. It's that, oh, I know what to do. I just know it. And it doesn't matter what anybody says or what anybody tells me. That feels right for me. That's right for me. I think this is a time that we need to be choosing, making choices based on our frequency, on what feels right. And if we can tune into higher level of frequency, then we'll actually be shown which way to go. Neptune also will often tell us which way to go in terms of if we're able to stop and tune in with our guidance and ask for help and say, look, I'm not quite sure what to do right now. I'm fearful. I need help. Ask for help. Wherever that comes from for you, whether that comes from angels or whether it comes from guides or whether it comes from your relationship to the divine, whatever that is for you, ask for help and then stay open to receive that guidance. And to receive that guidance, we need to be quiet. We need to listen. And those voices and the guidance will be there. They'll arise, particularly at a new moon, particularly at a solar eclipse, because things go quiet at new moon. It's a dark moon. So it's a good time to just take some time, half an hour, just be quiet, go into the quietness and see what arises for you. And the other thing just to talk about is, which voice are we feeding? So, which side of the fence are we feeding? We've got fear on the one side and anger and rage and division. And on the other side, we've got love, light, compassion, peace. Which one are we feeding our thoughts? So at any one time, where are our thoughts? Where are our minds? Are they being run by fear or they're being run by the opposite? And I remembered a little story, which I'm sure you've probably heard, but I'm going to relate it to you again. It's a story featuring a grandfather and his grandson. And the grandfather explains to his grandson that there are two wolves fighting within him, which is an image that serves as a metaphor for our inner sense of conflict, which most of us experience. So the conversation goes like this. I have a fight going on in me, the old man says. It's taking place between two wolves. One is evil. He's angry, envious, sorrowful, regretful, greedy, arrogant. He has self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, and he's filled of lies and false pride, superiority, and ego. The grandfather looks at the grandson and goes on. The other embodies joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. Both wolves are fighting to the death. The same fight is going on inside every person. The grandson takes a moment to reflect on this. He eventually looks up at his grandfather and says, "Which wolf will win, Grandpa?" And Grandpa says, "The one you feed." So it serves as a powerful reminder that we always have a choice of which one we're going to feed. Are we going to feed fear or are we going to feed love? That doesn't mean that we aren't aware of the darkness, because I think this is a time where we need to be aware of it. We need to be aware that it's there, but we don't need to feed it. This is a time where we're being called on to be warriors, maybe warriors of light. We're being called on to hold the light, to hold a space, and to choose the light, but that we can see the dark. We are aware of the dark, because wherever there's light, there's going to be dark. There's always two sides of the coin, always. There can't only be one side. There cannot be light without dark. But when we switch the light on, it extinguishes the dark. And I believe that we each have a role, especially if you're listening to this. It's not a mistake. We have a role to be the light, to be aware of the dark, to see the dark, to acknowledge the dark, not to be afraid of the dark, to see it, that it's there, and to choose the light. And consciously, constantly throughout the day, every day, bring ourselves back to the light. So if you have a thought that's really dreadful and really scary and you go hurtling off into the future, which is unknown and can be really scary, to bring yourself back as you think about it with compassion, to breathe and to possibly affirm the opposite. So if a thought comes into your mind that the world's a terrible place, you could have the thought of the world's a beautiful place. It's filled with beautiful people, because it is. And yes, there's some nasties out there, but there's also beautiful people and beautiful nature, and there are miracles every single day. So just where are we focusing? Where are we focusing our attention? That's a really key thing to ask at this new moon. Where are you focusing your attention? Where are my thoughts at any one moment? And when you see that they've gone, hearing out, just breathe and bring yourself back. And then reaffirm something that is more empowering. So I think that's it for the day. I hope that helps. And just keep working with this. We are in a very sticky time. There's a lot of rage in the world. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of polarity. There's a lot of division. And we need to really use the tools that we've learned over these years to just hold our center, just to keep steady. Ground yourself. There's not a lot of earth, a lot of air, lots of water, so lots of emotion, lots of thoughts. We need to ground. Go outside. Put your feet on the ground. Breathe. Take pauses during your day. Really, 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 really take pauses. This is exhausting energy. If you're tired, have a rest if you can. Even if it's 5 minutes. Just breathe. Bring yourself back. You've got this. You are surrounded by light. You've got all the help you need. You've got all the support you need. You are not alone. And together, we will move through this. Lots of love. John and I are starting a new course on Thursday, Journey to Freedom. Journey to Freedom is the journey to love. That's what this course is. It's basically providing us with tools to navigate change. And we are in the midst of enormous change. It's much bigger than just what we see on the physical level. This is a shift in consciousness, and it's not easy. So we need support. So if you'd like to join us, it's a 13-week course. It starts on Thursday. We start with a Zoom call at 7 o'clock. And then each week we have a Zoom call for 1.5 hours. And we build up beautiful communities, and there's a huge amount of support on all levels. So you get a lot of tools and a lot of support during the workshop and course. You can join us for the first week for free, and you can find out about all the details on our website, journeysofawakening.com. I'll put the link in the description box below. And if you like this channel, and if you like what I've said, and if it's helpful, please hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Thank you so much for listening.